Good evening, everyone. I'm Eric Lance-Kroner, and welcome to Ask the Candidate. This is a special edition of our Vote 2025 coverage. Just a few weeks to go until Election Day, and we would like to welcome former Assemblyman and Republican gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli into the studio. Jack, it's good to see you.
Great to be with you, Eric. Looking forward to it.
As am I, and I know the viewers are as well. This is your chance at home to talk one-on-one with the person who could be our next governor, and numerous ways that you can do just that. Of course, you can call us at 888-NEWS-12-NJ. That's 888-639-7126. You can also post a question to our Facebook, X, or Instagram accounts, and I can tell you that we have been getting hundreds of questions. And before we do get started, we do want to let our viewers know as well that we did interview your opponent last week. Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill was right here in studio where you're sitting, and you can see that show as well by going to news12.com. All right, let's get right to it because we've got a lot of ground to cover.
Let's do it.
Big story of the week has to do with the Gateway Tunnel project and President Trump terminating this $16 billion project, which I think has bipartisan support, and people, doesn't make a difference where you come from, agree that this is something that is needed in terms of the infrastructure of our region, the future of our region. I'm going to ask you a question about this in a moment, but first, a comment from your opponent in this race. Mikie Sherrill said, quote, Trump is terminating the country's largest and most important infrastructure project, ripping away tens of thousands of jobs and stealing billions of dollars from our state. Hundreds of thousands of New Jerseyans will benefit from this project. Then she says, but Jack Ciattarelli says that Gateway isn't a Jersey issue and refuses to stand up to Trump no matter the cost to New Jersey. So as governor, if governor, will you fight this, and how will you fight this?
First of all, if that's what she said, she's lying again. I never said that. This is a critically important project. I think it's the quintessential federal infrastructure project. And I think what the president's doing right now is playing hardball negotiations with the Democrats in the Congress who are not signing on to a continuing resolution to open up the government. By the way, my opponent, when there were shutdowns during the Biden administration, voted yes on continuing resolutions to open up the government. She's voted no on them this time because Donald Trump is the president. But if the first part of what she said is true, then vote yes on the continuing resolution to get the government open again. Again, I think this is all part of a negotiation to get the government open again, which I hope happens as soon as possible. 22,000 New Jerseyans have been furloughed. But hell or high water, we're going to find a way to fund this project. And let me also say, it's important for our governor to have a relationship with the president, whoever he or she may be, and whichever party they represent in the White House. And I'll do that.
As you know, the Congresswoman has said that you are beholden to the president, that you basically follow his lead in many cases. She, in talking about this very issue today online, she posted a picture of you saying that you give him an A. Would you consider reaching out to him even before the election to say, listen, I think this is a bad idea? Absolutely.
This is the first I've heard of what he said about the Gateway project. We need this project. And let's not forget, New Jersey is a donor state. Decade after decade after decade, we've sent more in federal tax dollars to Washington than we've gotten back. We want the federal government to fund this project. And I really do believe that I'll be able to work with the president to make that happen.
All right, so listen, we have some phone calls that are stacking up. We want to start getting to those. Who's our first caller, Tara? What is that? Oh, we're going to get to them in just a moment. But one of the main issues, and you've been trying to drive this home on the campaign trail, has to do with cost of living in New Jersey, and I mean, whether it's property taxes or sales tax, and then of course how education and school funding factors into all of this. You know, these are questions that people have been asking about. One in particular has to do with cost of living increases, and that I believe is one of the questions that we have coming up for you in just a moment as well. We have Bill from Howell on the line. Bill, thanks for calling in. What's your question? Bill, you there? I think we lost Bill. All right. We'll get back to Bill in a moment.
There is an affordability crisis in the state. It's driven by taxes. It's now driven by your monthly electricity bill. It's driven by housing. It's driven by the cost of child care, and any form of insurance in this state has gone through the roof. I think a lot of that has to do with the failed policies of the last 8 years. We're ranked as one of the worst places in the country to do business. Insurance companies have left. When you get more companies to come in, there's more competition. When there's more competition, you usually get better rates from the insurance companies. I think there's other legislative changes we can make to bring insurance costs down. I think there's things that we need to do to bring the cost of child care down. I've said I'm going to reduce the size and cost of our state government to afford a tax cut for individuals and businesses. We're not raising any taxes, despite what my opponent might say. It's another lie. And the astonishing moment was in the debates when she was asked whether or not she'd commit herself to raising taxes. She said, I'm not going to commit myself to anything right now. For me, that translates into a tax increase. These are the most overtaxed people and businesses in the country. And I think we have a bloated and inefficient state government. If we reduce the size and cost of state government very responsibly and very surgically, we can afford a tax cut.
Yet, and you've seen the ads, and the ads on both sides, let's face it, have really gone for the jugular here, and she has made no qualms about calling you high tax Jack, and she has called into question your voting record both on the local and then the state levels. Could you respond to that? Because, I mean, she has said, and we've had viewers also who have chimed in on social media who seem to be agreeing with or buying what the ads are telling them, which is that you have voted to increase taxes at every step of the way in your elected career.
Yeah, it's a lie. Her entire campaign is based on a stack of lies, her disdain for the president, that she can fly a helicopter. None of that is going to fix New Jersey. If you notice, there's a very big difference between her ads and my ads. In my ads, it's actually her from her interviews speaking. So the audio isn't doctored, the video isn't doctored. Can't say that about her ads.
Okay, so we have fixed the phone system now. We do have Bill from Howell on the line. Bill, thanks for calling in. I appreciate your patience. What's your question?
Hi, Jack. I'm trying to figure out, I'm an independent and retired teacher. I would like to see the teacher's pension fully funded, or else I never see an increase in my my pension. We all know how the pension works. Chris Whitman borrowed the money. Christie tried to give back some money. Murphy tried to put some money in. But it really needs to be fully funded for the retirees, because it does make a difference to me on which way I want to vote. What is his position on fully funding? You know, get it back to where it was. So
absolutely,
all retired teachers can get a little bit back in their pocket. You know what I mean?
So to the governor's credit, he has fully funded the pension for the last 5 years. And I'm all committed to that as well. I mean, the middle class is getting crushed in this state, and the pensions for middle class workers, like teachers, like police, like fire, those pensions are critically important. I'm the only candidate that's been endorsed by the New Jersey Retired Police and Firemen's Association because of my COLA proposal. So, yeah, we got to protect the pensions. But what we also have to do for current workers who aren't collecting a pension yet is we have to fix the state health care plan. While the governor was fully funding the state pension, he was terribly underfunding the state health care plan. And now we see a lot of public workers who are in the state health care plan getting a 2, 3, 4% increase in pay and yet going home with less take-home pay. That's not good. And we need to fix that. So not only want to make the complete pension plan, make sure the pension is there for all the retirees and future retirees, but we need to fix the state health care plan as well, and I'll do that.
We have a question right now on Facebook. This is from Ginny, and she actually posted, she said, if you are elected, will you keep the senior freeze, stay NJ, and anchor property tax relief programs?
So anybody that is already in those programs will get to continue to benefit from them, but I like programs that are easy to administrate and also more equitable across the board. So my idea is once you hit age 70, property taxes are frozen for life. Don't forget, with the Senior Freeze program, Stay New Jersey and Anchor, you still have to pay the annual increase that happens to your property tax bill. And then you have to wait months for a rebate check. How about if it's just frozen? This way you can plan with a little more security as a senior, knowing what your outflows are going to be on a monthly or quarterly basis. So let's freeze property taxes once you hit age 70, but anybody who's in those programs will be continuing to do so.
This was a topic, again, that we spoke with Congresswoman Sherrill about last week, and what she would do to try and get property taxes under control. I want to hear more about your plan for this. You know, there have been ideas that have been thrown around for years, and nothing's really stuck in terms of, getting municipalities to consolidate, share services. That, very few cases, municipalities have actually agreed to. So, I mean, what else is there? What else could you possibly have in your toolbox here?
So I think what we have to do is really incentivize towns in a very, very compelling way in order to do this. We are a home rule state, and I experienced this when I was a Somerset County freeholder. Today they're called commissioners. We worked in partnership with the police unions and police chiefs and a whole bunch of other citizens to regionalize 19 little departments, which are doing a great job. But the question is, can we improve the service at much less the cost? And after 2 years of study, we found that a regional force governed by the mayors was better than 19 little departments and saved $93 million over a 10-year period. And when it came time to implement those study findings, the 19 mayors voted against it 17-2 because no mayor wanted to lose their local police department. When I was in the legislature, Princeton Borough and Princeton Township decided to combine. God bless them. I mean, that's quite a courageous move. 7 elected officials lost their jobs. I got the state government to pick up 100% of the one-time upfront costs to make that consolidation possible. So we no longer have a Princeton Borough and a Princeton Township. We have one Princeton, and there's like $5 million a year in annual operating savings. What I learned from that experience is state government has to provide one hell of an incentive to compel locals to regionalize or consolidate. But the other way to lower property taxes is with a new school funding formula. We need a more equitable distribution of state aid to our schools, and I'm determined to make that happen.
I want to talk more about that school funding formula because we do have a number of questions about that. But we do have to take a very quick break. Keep it right here on Ask the Candidate on News 12 New Jersey. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Ask the Candidate. I'm Eric Lance-Kroner, along with Republican gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli. Again, we thank you so much for being here. We want to get back to schools. You mentioned the school funding formula right before we hit the commercial break. But we have a question now. This is Kimberly on Facebook. This is about school vouchers. She wants to know how you plan to implement your school voucher program. Do you acknowledge, goes on to say, that voucher programs take resources away from public school students?
Well, we've heard the same argument with regard to charter schools. The bottom line is we need educational choice. Sometimes a school district could be performing phenomenally well, but not meeting the needs of all students. I saw that in my school district, my 4 children. It met the needs of 3 of my 4. One of the 4, not so much. And I think in cases like that, we should have choices. So a school system could be performing phenomenally well, but let's provide vouchers for those for whom it may not be meeting all their needs. And then, of course, if a school district is failing, and I think there's a number of very reasonable metrics that tell us if a school system is failing, school district, attendance rate, graduation rate, performance on standardized tests, readiness for career if you're not going to college. If you're failing in 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 4 of those categories, we got to provide choice, and that's what charter schools are all about. I visited a charter school recently in Newark, and what I saw was phenomenal. And 80% of the kids are on grade level for reading, writing, and math, as opposed to the public school where 80% of the kids are not on grade level for reading, writing, and math. But of course, we can change that with the changes I have in mind through the State Board of Education for our public school curriculum.
Kimberly had a follow-up question as well. Wants to know, will vouchers be need-based or available to any parents that choose to send their children to private schools, regardless of whether they can afford it or not?
Yeah, I think it has to be needs-based because we have limited resources here. So, no different than the Anchor program. One of them provides a property tax rebate to people making up to $500,000 a year. Given the limited resources we have in Trenton and the challenges we're up against, I don't think we should be giving a rebate to people that are making $500,000 a year.
So, I mean, I assume you haven't thought about where the tiers would be on this yet.
Those are the analyses that we have to perform.
Okay. So last week, as you know, the Congresswoman sitting right where you were right now, and just moments before she arrived in the studio, we got word that you were planning to sue her for claiming that you killed tens of thousands of people by, as she claims, publishing misinformation of the dangers of opioid addiction through a firm you had owned at the time. And when I pressed her on this, she said, quote, "I think it's pretty clear the context of what I said. I think anybody who was listening would understand that," but she since doubled down and now has called for you to clarify what your companies did, and has been quoted, I'm sure you've read the article, as calling you a, quote, total baby for threatening the suit. Can you respond?
So, again, she's been lying throughout this campaign. Special interests that own her have been lying about me, telling teachers I'm going to take their pensions away, lying about my positions on women's reproductive rights. It's been lies across the board. She's lied about my tax policies. But the very baseless, reckless lie of the second debate is not going to go unanswered. I'll be filing a defamation suit. We're waiting for a clarification right now from ELECT, which governs campaign finance in the state. The moment we get it, we'll be filing that suit. I think the New York Times did an excellent job following her claim as to what I'm responsible for. Did an excellent job with their coverage of what it is my company did and what it didn't do. But what I found amazing about this particular person, Mikie Sherrill, is within 48 hours after the debate, we found out that she was taking campaign contributions from the very same company she's accusing me of colluding with regard to patient outcomes. So, listen, it's a disqualifier, and I'm going forward with this defamation suit.
So one of our viewers, John, had asked, he said, given time to reflect on that debate where the comments were made, you've stated that, again, and we just mentioned this a little bit, that you will be suing Representative Sherrill for defamation. He wants to know, what makes you think that Representative Sherrill's comments did amount to defamation?
Eric, you killed 10,000 people, including children. How do you feel about that, Eric?
Not great.
She said it 3 times, that I personally killed 10,000 people, including children. Those are grounds for a defamation suit. And there isn't a single legal scholar or attorney who's been quoted with regard to that in any newspaper or by any journalist that has said otherwise.
Jack, I want to actually pivot and talk about one of the other more scandalous parts of the last few weeks, and we're going to do that in just a few moments. But I want to kind of pivot here and talk about energy policy. Energy, I mean, this is something that people are feeling the pain right now, certainly over the summer, and now maybe getting a little bit of a break with their electric bills as we go into these winter months now. We're in the fall, so maybe getting a little bit of a break. But then all of a sudden they're going to get hit with the natural gas bills again to heat their home, or the oil bills. What can we do? What can you do? What's your plan to get these costs under control in New Jersey, to lower the costs that people are paying for their utilities, and how does your plan compare to Mikie Sherrill's?
So, you know, the president has nothing to do with our monthly electric bills. He has nothing to do with our property taxes, nothing to do with what's going on in our public schools, nothing to what's going on in public safety, and yet my opponent will blame everything on the president, including the crisis with our electricity bills. Here's what I can do on day one, and I can do it by executive order because it was never codified by the legislature. I could pull us out of RGGI. The Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative is a carbon tax policy that has failed New Jerseyans. The air is no cleaner, electricity is through the roof, and ratepayer dollars are going to other states. By pulling out of RGGI, we can save $300 to $500 million a year for homeowners, tenants, and businesses. The Democratic governor of Pennsylvania is not in RGGI. We should not be in RGGI. What my opponent has proposed is to declare a state of emergency on day one to freeze electricity rates at an all-time high. Why would we freeze them at an all-time high? We want them back to where they were. You have 77 incumbent Democratic legislators in this state, 52 of which are on the ballot this year, and not one of them has endorsed her plan. In fact, even the governor, and it might have been on this show, went on TV and said, I don't think you can do that.
It was on the show.
I'm pretty sure it was this show.
Yeah.
So listen, I find that campaign promise to be another one of the lies. And you know, we're going to go out there with the real deal. My plan is legitimate, it's real, it's doable. Again, the Democratic governor of Pennsylvania is not in RGGI. New Jersey shouldn't be in it either. We
have some more questions regarding utilities and power generation. When we come back, we have to take a quick break here. More of Ask the Candidate on the flip side of the break. Welcome back. We're going to take another call right now. We have Paul from Stanhope on the line. Paul, thanks for calling in. What's your question for Jack Ciattarelli?
My question for Jack is, the winning would be to reverse the no bags mandate, which everybody has to carry everything out of the stores. They could be putting it in bags, and we have to buy them. Go on that.
What was he suggesting? I missed the end.
He was asking whether or not you would reverse the plastic bag ban.
So I've said all along, under my energy master plan, we're going to reopen and repurpose the plants that Phil Murphy closed down. We're going to lift the unofficial moratorium on natural gas. We have electricity generation plants powered by natural gas that are only at 50% of capacity. Let's get them up to 70, 80, or 90%. Let's put a shovel in the ground on a 4th nuclear reactor down in South Jersey. Let's accelerate solar on the rooftops of all these warehouses that have gone up. That's prime real estate for solar arrays. And I'm never telling people what car they have to buy. We're not telling people how to heat their home. We're not telling people what appliances they have to buy. And at the supermarket, they can have back their plastic bags if they want. But we need a rational energy plan to get us to the future, Eric. And I really believe what I put forth is, in pulling out of RGGI, of course, is a very, very rational plan that gets the monthly electric bill down now and makes us an electricity producer again. When Phil Murphy took office, we were an exporter of electricity. Today we're having to import it through these exchanges because we're not producing enough. And we're not producing enough because he shut down a whole lot, didn't expand a whole lot, with the exception of betting it all on wind. And anybody who's from New Jersey would understand that the Jersey Shore is kind of sacrosanct in this state, not to mention the fact that I really believe that wind farms off our Jersey Shore would really upset the ecology of our ocean, and in so doing have an adverse effect on our recreational and commercial fishing industries, which are a large component of our state economy. But again, anybody from New Jersey would know that.
We were talking about generation, so our question right before you said that was from Tom. Tom wants to know, Holtec International has plans to build new nuclear reactors at the Oyster Creek site in Lacey. Wants to know if you would commit to approving those plans.
Absolutely. If it fits within my energy master plan, we need more energy in this state. We have 3 nuclear reactors down in South Jersey that produce 40% of our electricity at 0 carbon emissions. So if you're truly about sustainability and you're pro-environment, you should be celebrating nuclear power. But listen, again, we need a rational transition to the future. What I've put forth is legitimate, it's real, and it's rational. What my opponents put forth is a lie.
All right, we're going to take another quick break here on Ask the Candidate on News 12 New Jersey. We'll be right back. I'm Eric Lanskroner. Welcome to News 12 New Jersey's special Ask the Candidate here with Republican gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli. Again, it's good to have you in studio answering questions with us tonight.
Great to be here.
And we want to remind you at home that there are numerous ways that you can continue to ask us questions tonight. You can do so right by calling us, 888-NEWS12NJ. That's 888-639-7126. Also, get us on any of our social media sites, News 12NJ on Facebook as well as X and our Instagram account. All right. Let's talk about the other big scandal over the past few weeks, and this is, it seems to be the story that does not go away. And to do that, we're going to get to, I believe it's Steve. Do we have? Okay, we do have Donna, I guess. All right, so Donna wants to know, why do you think it's a bad thing that Mikie Sherrill didn't snitch on her classmates? So we're talking about obviously the Naval Academy cheating scandal, largest in the history of the Navy Academy, and Mikie Sherrill herself, by her own admission, said she wasn't allowed to walk at graduation because she didn't turn in classmates.
I think what led to her cracking at the last debate to make that very reckless and defamatory statement was the pressure of everyone knowing now that she was punished at the Naval Academy, that she's tripled her net worth while only 6 years in Congress. She can't answer how. She broke federal law on stock trades and stock reporting. And the New York Times reports was trading defense stocks while sitting on the House Armed Services Committee. Listen, there was a cheating scandal at the Naval Academy in the early 1990s. We know that she was involved because she was punished. She wasn't allowed to walk. She wasn't allowed to have her name listed in the commencement exercise program, and she's kind of changed her story 3 times as to why she was punished. All she has to do is approve the release of her disciplinary records to tell us exactly why she was punished. But this is somebody who boasted in the first debate of being the most transparent candidate of all time and is all about transparency. If that's the case, tell us why you were punished. I think the people in New Jersey deserve to know why it was you were not allowed to walk at the Naval Academy graduation. I think you should also be transparent about how it is you tripled your net worth in only 6 years' time in the Congress, or whether or not you were, in fact, as per the New York Times, trading defense stocks while sitting on the House Armed Services Committee. Let's
focus more on the Naval Academy, because Steve also wanted to know, and this, you've already answered this partially. Steve wants to know, how is what Congresswoman Sherrill did in college relevant to my problems, he says. She served 10 years and was honorably discharged. Who cares what happened 30 years ago? Help me understand why it's relevant.
I care what happened 30 years ago. I think this speaks to character. This is somebody who's built her entire political brand around her attendance at the Naval Academy and her military career. But I do think we're seeing a pattern here. Something went terribly wrong at the Naval Academy, she was punished. Something went wrong while serving in Congress. She broke federal law, had to pay federal fines. And something's terribly wrong with a campaign that's constantly lying about its opponent and makes this baseless, reckless claim that's going to subject her to a defamation suit. There's a question of character here.
Regarding the release of her disciplinary records, when I asked her last week as to why, she says if this is a witch hunt, why she wouldn't just release the records, she responded in part, quote, I'm not even quite sure what he wants, meaning you, and claims you're trying to divert attention away from the federal investigation into how her records were released. Can you respond to that?
So somebody filed a Freedom of Information Act with the National Archives. That's a perfectly legal thing to do. Here in New Jersey, we call that OPRA, Open Public Records Act. And it's unfortunate that the National Archives, when they fulfilled that request for information, forgot to redact certain information. They've taken complete responsibilities for what they did, and they've apologized for what they did. But that is something very different from what took place at the Naval Academy. That information had nothing to do with what went on at the Naval Academy. And if what she's saying is true as to why she was punished, then prove it by releasing your disciplinary records.
All right, we have another call right now. We're going to go to Francesca from Hawthorne on the line. Francesca, thanks for calling in. What's your question?
Hi, Mr. Jack. So we talk about the cost of living adjustment and bringing that back for police officers and firemen. I'm just wondering if you have a plan to bring this back for teachers as well?
I do, Francesca, and I'm the only candidate endorsed by the New Jersey Retired Police and Firemen's Association because of my very specific COLA proposal. Of course, the NJA is never going to endorse the Republican, and I do take exception to the fact that they're telling teachers that I'm going to take away their pensions. It's a lie. I've said that I not only protect their pensions by fully funding the pension, I will also fix a state health care plan and reform Chapter 78 so that you're not going home with less take-home pay just because your employer, in this case, the local school district in the state, screwed up the state health care plan. So very, very specifically, I'm not going to reinstate the COLA on the backs of municipalities. We already have a property tax crisis. We could do it through the Pension Adjustment Act, but we're not going to do it that way. And I'm not going to take it out of the pension trusts. That would already exacerbate the problem we already have because we know the pension trust is terribly underfunded. We'll make it a separate line item right in the state budget. We've got people that have gone 10, 15, 20 years without an increase in their budget. And this is particularly acute for those public servants who didn't pay into Social Security when they were working. A lot of people don't realize that some members that work, some of our fellow New Jerseyans that work for government don't pay into Social Security during their working years. That means their pension is their only source of retirement income, which makes the COLA all the more important.
Here's a question about NJT. Actually, we got a few questions about NJT, and to be as fair as we can be, we're asking you the same questions for the most part that we asked the Congresswoman as well. But Frank wrote to us asking, how are you going to get New Jersey Transit running smoothly? Goes on to say that Chris Christie almost bankrupted it and service was severely affected. Then goes on to say Murphy dumped plenty of money into it, but it doesn't appear that there's any accountability. New Jersey Transit, New Jersey needs New Jersey Transit, and it needs to be funded. What accountability measures will you take to get it under control?
So what I really want to do is what other states have done from an accountability and transparency standpoint. Let's create the Garden State Transportation Authority, put all of our mass transit systems under one roof. That means the Atlantic City Expressway and its revenue from its tolls, the Parkway and Turnpike and its revenue from its tolls, and New Jersey Transit with its revenue from its fares, all under one roof, one management structure. Right now I have an authority running the Atlantic City Expressway. I've got an authority that's running the Turnpike Parkway. I've got an authority over here taking care of New Jersey Transit. They all have different procurement systems, different management structures. Let's put all the mass transit systems under one roof, better accountability, better transparency. The state government is the dedicated revenue source. It's called the state budget. We'll put in there the money that's necessary to make sure all these systems work well, and that includes New Jersey Transit. But let me say this, Eric. In a sprawl state, it's very hard for New Jersey Transit to be all things to all people. And I know some people are not going to be happy about this, but I'm always transparent. We need to reevaluate every single train and bus line to make sure there's adequate ridership to justify its existence. And after we perform that analysis, I think we'll have the funds necessary to dedicate to those lines that serve the greatest number of commuters during the peak times.
Here's another one. A person by the name of Rebel Man on Facebook wants to know, will you consider freezing the automatic 3% increase in New Jersey Transit fares every year because the fares are simply not affordable now?
And they continue to go up every single year because of these automatic increases. And so the answer to the question is yes. I will reduce the size and cost of state government, and in so doing, hopefully dedicate our resources in different ways to not have to have these automatic increases. I really want to get back to what the three pillars of state government always were: public health and safety, public education, and infrastructure. I feel like our state government's trying to be all things to all people. It's why it has gone from $36 billion to $59 billion in 8 years' time. It's a 64% unprecedented increase. And can anybody say they're really better off? You can't. And so I think we need to do a better job of dedicating our resources and setting our priorities.
I just want to clarify, the last two questions were not asked of the Congresswoman last week. This one was, though. This was a question from Adam, who posted this on X, saying New Jersey Transit raised fares without public hearings this year and has no plans to hold them before future annual increases. As governor, would you stop further efforts to increase fares without the public hearings? Would you push for a virtual hearing option to encourage participation?
I've said all along that the fare increases in New Jersey Transit, the toll increases, and even the gas tax increases is something the legislature should decide upon as necessary. These automatic increases kind of take the legislature and the executive branch off the hook. We work for the people. We make these decisions each year with our state budget. These decisions should be out in the open and should be the decision of the legislature and the executive branch, not automatic.
All right, we're going to take another quick break. Keep it right here on News 12 New Jersey's Ask the Candidate with Jack Ciattarelli. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Ask the Candidate here on News 12 New Jersey. I'm Eric Lanskrutter along with Republican gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli. As we speak tonight, there is a Board of Ed meeting that's going on at the Freehold Regional High School District. It's all happening on the heels of what was really a vile anti-Semitic social media, a series of posts ranging from students in Manalapan sharing plans to dress up as Hitler and Holocaust babies, while others commented, "Kill every last one, please," and, quote, "I fill my vape with the gas from the Holocaust."
These are social media posts?
These are social media posts.
Anonymous?
No, they know who the students were. And this was just one example of anti-Semitic comments, anti-Semitism that we've seen in the state. The NJEA, and you know this, is under fire for hiring an editor for their monthly magazine with a history of not only anti-Semitism, but anti-Christian posts as well. As governor, how would you deal with what really appears to be the mainstreaming of anti-Semitism?
So anti-Semitism is up across the globe. It's up here in the United States, and on a per capita basis, there's more anti-Semitic instances than any other state, and it's unacceptable. And so what I have said is we should adopt the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. My Attorney General and the 21 county prosecutors that I appoint, to which all police chiefs report, as well as the Superintendent of State Police, shall be sensitive to the concerns and worries of the Jewish community, as they should all minority communities across the state. I think there needs to be some legal consequences for anti-Semitic behavior, as there should be for other forms of hate. But it's just unacceptable, and it's terribly sad. And so I think a conversation needs to be had, and I hope it will have, between the school administration and leadership and the parents of these children.
You were talking about the IRA, the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism that's been held up in the State House for longer than I can remember. I mean, there was finally some movement on it, but it still hasn't been approved. Why?
I don't know. My understanding is it has gotten its way out of both houses. It's sitting on the governor's desk. Yeah. So we'll see what it is that he does about the bill. But listen, this is unacceptable. What I've said is the job of a leader is to bring people together. We're the most diverse state in the country, and I think there's power and beauty in that diversity if we embrace it. And so I will reinvigorate the Interfaith Council, which brings the leaders of all religious faiths together with the governor once a month to sit down together and talk about ways to work together to strengthen our community. I've also pledged myself to attend 2 different houses of worship each month, whether it's a synagogue, a mosque, a temple, a Christian church. It's another way to celebrate our diversity, and through the power of social media, show what the governor's doing at the very least to hopefully bring us together. But getting back to Jewish folks, I will establish an advisory council on Jewish relations in my administration. I'll do the same thing. There'll be an advisory council for Muslim relations in our community, as for the Sikh community, and others as well, where I feel there's a community that's misunderstood and for which intolerance is being demonstrated. But this needs to end, and parents need to take some responsibility here.
Let's get to another social media question here. Joanne wrote to us asking, will you end the sanctuary status in New Jersey on day one?
I've said executive order number 1 on day 1 is we're getting rid of the Immigrant Trust Directive. These policies have failed, but the good news is many of them were not codified through the legislature. So by getting rid of the Immigrant Trust Directive, we'll no longer have sanctuary cities, nor will we be a sanctuary state. I've said from the very beginning, I believe this encourages illegal immigration. We shouldn't be doing that. And it does handcuff our police in certain ways. If we want safe communities, we need to let our local police do their job.
Let's get to the phones. We've got Mike from Keensburg on the line. Mike, thanks for waiting. What's your question?
Hello, candidate Ciattarelli. If elected governor, I'd like to know how you'd respond if President Trump found it necessary to deploy either the National Guard or the United States military to any city in New Jersey to perform the work typically done by local law enforcement?
Thanks, Mike. I've told the president that he need not worry about sending the National Guard or National Reserves into New Jersey, because I appoint the Attorney General, to which the 21 county prosecutors report. I appoint the 21 county prosecutors, to which local police chiefs report. I appoint the superintendent of the state police, and there will be law and order in this state. Once again, we won't have sanctuary cities. We won't be a sanctuary state. We need to reform bail reform. Cashless bail has created a professional criminal who's learned how to game the system. Talk to your local cops about arrest, release, repeat. It's real, and it's why we have a spike in nonviolent crime across the state: break-ins, car thefts, flash mobs at the malls, flash mobs along the Jersey Shore. We're going to be a law and order state under Governor Ciattarelli, and there will be consequences for unruly, unlawful behavior, and that includes some reforms to our juvenile criminal justice that I think are desperately needed. There needs to be a consequence, no matter what your age. If you're engaging in unruly behavior, if you're creating chaos in the community or breaking the law, there needs to be a consequence, and there will be.
All right, we're going to take another break here. When we come back, we'll have a few more questions on Ask the Candidates on News.
My question for the candidates is, what are they going to do about overdevelopment in towns that are nice little suburbs but are slowly becoming cities, which is adding to the stress on the schools, property taxes, and adding to huge traffic to little towns that once were nice little suburbs?
Affordability, public safety, public education are three of the top four issues. The fourth top issue in this year's race is overdevelopment in our suburban communities. And I want to point out that the Democratic Party will always like to get people to believe that they're the pro-environment party, and yet they're allowing Garden to be taken right out of the Garden State by allowing all this overdevelopment to take place in suburban communities where there's no mass transit, no infrastructure, no jobs. All we're doing is putting more idling cars on the road. Let me say this is a competition, and I have an obligation to have coattails for all Republicans down ballot. I'm working hard to produce a Republican majority in our state legislature for the first time in 25 years. And with that, we can repeal some of the laws that are leading to the overdevelopment of our suburban communities. The other thing that I'll do on day one is go before the state Supreme Court with a new argument as to what's going on, because what's going on is in violation of DEP policies specific to stormwater management, sewer capacity, sustainability. So what we're seeing in many communities is in violation of DEP policies, and yet the Murphy administration is doing nothing about it. But know this, your next governor, Governor Ciattarelli, also gets to appoint 2 new Supreme Court state justices, one of which is the Chief Justice. And I won't be appointing anyone who doesn't agree with me on school funding and the Mount Laurel housing doctrine as we currently know it. We do need more affordable housing. Young people, seniors, disabled people, veterans, but the way we're doing it is taking Garden right out of the Garden State, and it needs to end. And I'm committing myself to making that happen.
Here's a question on social media. Michael asks, when recently asked, how important do you think Black and Hispanic voters are to your campaign? You abruptly responded next question and didn't reply. Can you answer that question for the voters, since much of our state is made up of Black and Hispanic voters?
So the poster child for all that's wrong with our housing policy, specific to the question we had from Tracy and Wayne, is taking place in Cranberry, New Jersey. They've got their 4th round obligation, state mandated housing from the state. They're told they have to build X number of units. And in order to achieve that, they're condemning through eminent domain a 175-year-old family-owned farm. First of all, property rights are sacred in this country. Number 2, eminent domain was created to attack blight, not open space. But here's a town condemning a farm to build more affordable housing. I think that's criminal. It's not going to happen under Governor Ciattarelli. Why am I bringing that all up? I had a press conference there 3 weeks ago. And as you know, as a journalist, as a member of the press corps, giving the privilege of being able to ask the first question after I've been speaking for the past 15 minutes about preserving open space and how not to do with high-density housing, the first question was on Black and Latino votes. And so I said, next question. Anybody who follows me on social media knows what it is that I do to attract people of every minority community in this state. I, as a Republican, have always prided myself on going anywhere and everywhere. And the thing I'm most proud of, Eric, in this state, while owning my own business all through the years, I did have the privilege of serving 2 terms at the municipal level, 2 terms at the county level, and 3 two-year terms at the state level, terminating myself each time, and not even taking the pay or the benefits at the municipal and county level. Didn't take the benefits at the state level either. Where did I win? In a town, a county, and district where Democrats outnumber Republicans, sometimes very significantly. How did I do that? By going anywhere, going everywhere, and listening to people and talking about my ideas on how to fix the state of New Jersey.
We're running out of time, but we have time for one more caller. We've got Dolores from Whiting on the line. Dolores, thanks for calling in. What's your question?
I want to know if the government is going to raise the sales tax 10%.
So this is another one of the lies throughout the campaign, and we've said this in both debates. I am not raising any taxes. I've put forth a very specific plan on how to lower property taxes and income taxes. And when my opponent was asked the question as to whether or not she's going to raise taxes, her answer was, I'm not going to commit myself to anything right now. I found that astonishing, that she's lying about my tax policy, but that when she was asked, she wouldn't commit herself to not raising taxes on the most overtaxed people in the nation. And so I'm not raising the sales tax. It's a lie.
We had another social media question, and I know that they're not quite ready for it in the booth, but I just want to this is from Douglas, who wants to know, what's your long-term plan to try and reduce the exodus of people leaving New Jersey?
So the property tax crisis is particularly acute for our senior citizens. Listen, 2 out of 3 people are looking to leave the state. So let's make all retirement income tax-free the way it is in Pennsylvania. Let's freeze property taxes for everyone once they hit age 70. Let's never tax your house, reassess your house just because you did a home improvement. Let's allow everyone to deduct 100% of their property taxes on their New Jersey tax return. Let's cap property taxes at 1% of the assessed value of the home for first-time home buyers for the first 5 years of home ownership. Let's make the first 2 years out of high school or college income tax-free so young people can get a start here. These are things that we can do to keep more money in your pocket, to make New Jersey more affordable.
We're just about out of time. I want to give you a chance to share some final thoughts.
I really believe New Jersey needs change. The Democratic Party has controlled our legislature for 25 years. They've controlled the executive branch for 8 years. Can anybody really say they're better off? An election is a time to make a change, and so I'm a change agent. I've put forth very specific proposals on how to fix the things that make New Jersey unaffordable, how to fix public education, how to fix public safety, and how to stop overdevelopment in our suburbs. I've yet to see very specific proposals out of my opponent, and I'm from New Jersey. My opponent is not. The Ciattarellis have been here for 100 years. 3 generations of Ciattarellis have all owned their business, owned their own business right here in New Jersey. So I'm excited. In 14 days, New Jersey has a decision to make.
Republican gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time.
Eric, thank you.
And if you missed any of the show, you'll be able to see it on news12.com, along with the show with Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill. Thank you so much for watching Ask the Candidate with Jack Ciattarelli. We'll see you again next time.